Good afternoon and welcome to the World Afternoon. I am Ulishayo Babasinde. Nigeria to prosecute those arrested in connection with US-UK terror alerts. Outcry over Uganda University's pregnancy test order. Ukraine claims recapturing towns and villages from Russia. Palestinians perform Friday dawn prayers at Al-Aqsa Mosque after Israeli settlers attack. And now the news in full. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Alkali, has assured Nigerians that the suspected terrorists arrested in connection with the plan to attack the Federal Capital Territory are to be prosecuted soon. IGP Alkali gave the assurance while further questions from newsmen on the recent alerts by some foreign countries, including the United States and United Kingdom, to their citizens on plots by terrorists to wreak havoc on some public places and offices in Abuja and other parts of the Federal Capital Territory. The IGP also gave reasons why security agencies engage terrorists and kidnappers in negotiation for the release of victims. The police chief also spoke on rescued Chibok girls, the need for politicians to avoid violence during campaigns, the misuse of local security operatives by state governments, and the attachment of policemen to very important personalities. On the US and UK terror alerts, Mr. Usman dismissed insinuations that the Nigerian government tried to wave them off. The police chief, who noted that it was not out of place for embassies to issue such alerts to their citizens, however explained that the government is concerned because the alerts made residents of the FCT in neighboring states apprehensive. Kenya's parliament has approved the deployment of more than 900 troops to the conflict-racked east of the Democratic Republic of Congo in a mission that will cost taxpayers $36.5 billion for an initial 6 months. The National Assembly approved the dispatch of just over 900 Kenyan Defense Force personnel to the Democratic Republic of Congo as part of a joint regional operation against a resurgent rebel offensive. The mineral-rich DRC is struggling to contain dozens of armed militias, including the M23 rebel group, whose recent advances in the country's east have revived old animosities and exacerbated regional tensions. Kenyan President William Ruto had announced that the country will be sending in troops, following an agreement by the East African Community Regional Bloc in April to establish a joint force to help restore security in the DRC. Kenya will demand the mission, which will also include soldiers from Burundi, South Sudan, and Uganda. Meanwhile, a private Uganda university has triggered public outcry after it told some female students that they had to undergo pregnancy tests before they could be allowed to sit for final year exams. The internal university memo obtained by newsmen was said to have instructed all female nurses and midwife students to take a pregnancy test for a fee of 5,000 Ugandan shillings. That's about $1.3 Ugandan nurses and midwifery board exams. Report has it that the matter was raised in Parliament, with Speaker Anita Among describing the order as very unfortunate, saying that even younger pupils who had become pregnant were allowed to sit for exams. Meanwhile, a member of Parliament, Sarah Opendi, has called on the lawmakers to make sure that no other institution issued such a directive. In another report, the Kampala International University's Directorate and the women's rights activist Catherine Kiyobutungi have branded the directive as discriminatory and unacceptable. Meanwhile, Frank Kaharuza Magisha, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of the university campus where the midwifery and nursing school is based, later announced that the directive has been rescinded. Kampala International University is a not-for-profit institution founded in 2001 and hosts more than 12,000 students from various parts of Africa with campuses in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya. This is the World at Noon, coming to you from Osun State Broadcasting Corporation, Voice of the West, Nigeria. Now I read this message. Assist the government of the day in all your endeavors. In it lies your development. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has alleged that Kyiv has recaptured dozens of towns and villages lying in the country's south from Russian control. President Zelensky said in an address slip that as many as 41 settlements are falling back under Ukrainian control. Russia, for its part, said it had made the difficult decision to pull forces from Kherson, the capital of a region of the same name. Russian President Vladimir Putin has earlier declared that the region had been annexed to the Russian Federation following a referendum that had been held there alongside similar votes in 3 other Ukrainian regions. It will be recalled that Moscow has been waging war against Ukraine since February to defend its Russian-speaking population in the face of persecution by Kyiv. Ukrainian officials, including President Zelensky, have at the same time stopped short of banking too heavily on Kherson's return to the mainland, saying Russia is unlikely to leave the city without a fight. The United States has slammed far-right Israeli politician Itamar Ben-Gvir for attending a memorial service for Meir Kahane. Kahane, a US-born Israeli who was killed in Manhattan 32 years ago this week, founded the car terrorist organization. In the first public rebuke from the Biden administration of the leader of Otzma Yehudi Party, who is aiming to become the Israeli regime's next public security minister, the U.S. State Department said celebrating the legacy of a terrorist organization is abhorrent. Till now, the Biden administration has avoided commenting directly on the rise of Ben-Gvir's anti-Arab Otzma Yehudit Jewish Friends Party, which is expected to play a prominent role in Likud Chairman Benjamin Netanyahu's next coalition government. The 46-year-old Ben-Gvir and his faction have long described themselves as disciples of Kahane. However, the right-wing politician claims that he has moderated his political views. At a ceremony honoring Kahane in Jerusalem, Ben-Gvir, who was himself a former member of Kahane's outlawed car organization, was booed for disavowing the late terrorist leaders' call for the mass expulsion of Arabs. Iran's ambassador and permanent representative to the United Nations UN says the ongoing situation in Afghanistan is the result of foreign military intervention with the purported aims of combating terrorism and bringing democracy to the chaos-ridden country. Amir Sahid Iravani made the remark in the meeting of the UN General Assembly on the violence, insecurity, and rights abuse in Afghanistan. Iravani said the situation in Afghanistan serves as a reminder that military intervention in other countries under the pretext of combating terrorism while claiming to bring democracy, peace, and prosperity not only degrades those common values but also harms those states and their people. He added that the Taliban must be mindful of the international community's repeated calls for the formation of a government that accurately reflects Afghanistan's multi-ethnic society. The Iranian diplomat highlighted the role of foreign ministry intervention as well as the irresponsible withdrawal of US-led foreign forces from Afghanistan. According to him, it is crucial to investigate claims of war crimes committed by foreign forces, including those previously conducted and now deprioritized due to bias and political pressure. Iravani also described as crucial the restoration of Afghanistan's banking and financial systems, as well as enabling access to frozen assets of the country in the West. Thousands of Palestinian worshippers have reached Al-Aqsa Mosque today in occupied East Al-Qudus and performed Friday morning prayer in its courtyard amid strict Israeli measures following attacks by illegal Israeli settlers last night. Palestinians started to flock from the different surrounding cities since early dawn hours to make sure that they make it on time to the congregation. Israeli occupation police and strict checkpoints were deployed in the streets of Al-Qudus, in an attempt to hamper their arrival to the holy seat, as several thousands of them managed to reach the mosque. Meanwhile, dozens of Israeli settlers stormed the complex, and the illegal settlers forced their way into the holy site through the Bab al-Maghariba under tight protection of several groups of Israeli soldiers and special police force, and carried out provocative acts in order to infuriate Palestinians. Illegal settler incursions under police protection to the Al-Aqsa Mosque have been on the rise, which has led to daily confrontations with Palestinians at the mosque, with many injured, arrested, and killed. However, Palestinians have said that their continued presence at Al-Aqsa, a holy place of worship for Muslims, is imperative. And here again are the highlights of the world at noon. Police Inspector General Usman Al-Khali has assured Nigerians that a suspected terrorist arrested in connection with a plan to attack the Federal Capital Territory are to be prosecuted soon. Private Uganda University has triggered public outcry after it told some female students that they had to undergo pregnancy tests before they could be allowed to sit for final year exams. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has alleged that Kyiv has recaptured dozens of towns and villages lying in the country's south from Russian control. He also reported that thousands of Palestinian worshippers have reached Al-Aqsa Mosque today in occupied East Al-Qudus and performed Friday morning prayer in its courtyard amid strict Israeli measures following attacks by illegal Israeli settlers last night. That was the world at noon, packaged by Olushayo Babatunde. Today's news talk illustrates the enormous contributions of the administration of Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola to the success of Osun Subeb in the past 4 years. The piece is written by Sofiu Abdulganiyu of Osun Subeb.
All over the world, it is a generally known fact that no meaningful development can take place without any solid foundation put in place for the education of the minors and even adults. A society that fails to take this truism into cognizance, no doubt, is courting the danger of not only its future, but its continued existence. To put it mildly, a given society and its people can only succeed individually and collectively as an entity if a sound and qualitative education is on ground for its teeming youths. There are many stages of getting this dream attained. One of them is at the foundation stage, otherwise known as the formative years of acquiring education. An agency established by the federal government of Nigeria charged with the responsibility of laying this good foundation. Among other core objectives for its establishment is Universal Primary Education Board, UBEC. This informed why the Adegboyega Oyetola-led administration in about 4 years has been augmenting the activities of the State Universal Basic Education Board, SUBEB. To this end, the almost 4 years old administration of Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola has not been found wanting, neither has it left any stone unturned to take this advantage to the maximum pedestal. Consequently, in about 4 years, the state government of Osun, under the leadership of Mr. Oyetola, remains a valuable bedrock of support to SUBEB. This administration of Mr. Oyetola has done so well by organizing various training workshops for teachers, head teachers, and principals of primary and junior secondary schools in the state. In collaboration with the Universal Basic Education Board Commission, UBEC Abuja, and the State Universal Basic Education Board, the about 4 years of Oyetola administration has been very eventful and remarkable, as it has organized numerous training workshops for public primary school teachers, which include the training of 1,620 teachers for effective teaching and learning, training workshop for teachers on preventive measures against COVID-19 pandemic disease, training of 900 science teachers on strengthening mathematics and science education, training of 400 early childhood care development education teachers, training of 2,608 primary 1, 2, and 3 teachers on modern teaching techniques of English language in government public schools, training workshop for education managers, leadership training workshop for public school principals, head teachers, training workshop for quality assurance officers, training workshop for primary school agri teachers, as well as training workshop on computer ICT for primary school teachers as part of its support for the annual World Information Technology Day. All these are being done by Oyetola administration not only to support education drive for pupils of public schools in Osun, but to also allow them be at par with information and communication technology trend in line with the global best practice in education. It should also be emphasized that a total number of 292 projects, including new school buildings of 90 blocks of 392 classrooms to accommodate 19,600 students, pupils and teachers in 68 government-owned primary and junior secondary schools were carried out. One must not also forget, in a hurry, the procurement and supply of 10,220 units of furniture for 20,440 pupils and students of both primary and junior secondary schools, while teachers also benefited from the largesse with the procurement and supply of 1,967 for the smooth running of teaching and learning process activities in schools. With all these myriads of achievements made in about 4 years, it would therefore not amount to an understatement to emphatically conclude that Osun Subeb remains a federal government education agency to beat throughout Nigeria by virtue of the contributions of Oyetola-led administration to its core mandates and objectives. While Newstalk thank and salute Governor Adegboyega Oyetola for these laudable feats in the field of education. In about 4 years, Newstalk calls on other stakeholders also in the field of education, particularly parents and guardians, to complement these gestures by giving maximum support to Governor Oyetola's administration on its huge investment on education sector to amount to mortgaging the education dreams and aspirations of these future leaders if reverse is the case.
That news talk, which chronicles the enormous contributions of the administration of the state governor, Mr. Adegboyega Oyetola, to the success of Osun Subeb in the past 4 years, was written by Sophia Abdulganil, the Public Relations Officer of Subeb, and the piece is presented by Temitope Olaiwola. Thank you for listening to the World.com. Good afternoon.